The night air in the Sonoran Desert is thick and perfectly still. A United States Border Patrol SUV sits parked on a dusty ridge overlooking a known smuggling corridor near Nogales, Arizona. The agents inside are relying on a multi-billion-dollar network of seismic sensors, infrared cameras, and radar towers to secure the perimeter. But tonight, that massive shield is about to be dismantled by something that costs less than a used smartphone. A faint, high-pitched whine cuts through the silence. It sounds like a swarm of angry hornets. Before the agents can even roll down the window to listen, the digital screens inside their cab flicker and die. The radio emits nothing but a wall of heavy static. They are completely cut off from dispatch. 5 seconds later, a shape drops from the night sky at 80 miles per hour. It slams directly into the hood of the SUV. The shaped explosive charge detonates, immediately vaporizing the engine block and leaving the agents stranded, deaf, and blind in the dark. This wasn't a military strike from a foreign superpower. This was a cartel operation. For decades, the American public has visualized the border crisis through the lens of foot patrols, hidden tunnels, and desperate people crossing a river. But the reality of organized crime has evolved at a terrifying exponential rate. The cartels operating just south of the border are no longer just street gangs. They are highly funded, technologically sophisticated paramilitary organizations with an annual revenue rivaling small nations. And they have been watching modern global conflicts very closely. They have seen how cheap, commercially available drones have completely rewritten the rules of engagement on modern battlefields. They have realized that the sky is completely unguarded. First-person view, or FPV drones, represent a massive paradigm shift in asymmetric warfare. We are not talking about the slow, bulky consumer drones you see at a local park. These are custom-built, stripped-down racing drones equipped with high-definition cameras and piloted by operators wearing virtual reality headsets. They can fly at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. They can navigate through dense forests, fly through open windows, and track moving targets with terrifying precision. And they can carry a payload. A 2-pound explosive charge might not sound like much, but when delivered precisely to the weakest point of an armored vehicle, a power substation, or a communications tower, it is absolutely devastating. Imagine a Tuesday night in Texas. Intelligence suggests a major cartel is moving a high-value shipment across the Rio Grande. As U.S. law enforcement mobilizes, the cartel does not respond with ground troops. Instead, they launch a swarm. 50 autonomous and semi-autonomous drones lift off from a hidden compound just 2 miles south of the border. They cross the river at an altitude of 400 feet, completely ignoring the massive steel bollard wall that cost billions to construct. The swarm is highly coordinated. The first wave consists of electronic warfare drones. These specialized units carry localized signal jammers. As they fly over U.S. territory, they blanket the area in radio frequency noise. Police radios go dead. Cell phone signals vanish. The mesh networks used by Border Patrol cameras are instantly severed. The American defenders are thrown back into the 19th century, unable to communicate with units just a mile away. The second wave is kinetic. Kamikaze FPV drones, rigged with fragmentation and shaped charges, dive out of the sky. They don't need to kill, they just need to paralyze. They target the tires and engine blocks of responding police cruisers. They fly directly into the radar dishes of stationary surveillance towers, blinding the sector command. When a U.S. Customs and Border Protection Black Hawk helicopter scrambles to provide air support, it is immediately met by a dozen interceptor drones. The pilot, trained to avoid ground fire, suddenly finds his airspace saturated with flying explosives. A single drone strike to the tail rotor would mean catastrophic failure. The helicopter is forced to retreat. For the next 45 minutes, the cartel owns the sky. They have established a localized, temporary no-fly zone inside the United States of America. Under this invisible canopy, their ground teams move their high-value cargo across the border completely uncontested. The terrifying reality of this scenario is that the United States currently has no scalable, effective defense against it on domestic soil. If an enemy fighter jet violates U.S. airspace, the military knows exactly what to do. But if 100 plastic drones cross the border at tree level, the defense apparatus is completely paralyzed. The weapons designed to shoot down aircraft cannot be used in populated areas. You cannot fire an anti-aircraft missile at a drone hovering over a residential neighborhood in El Paso. You cannot deploy a phalanx close-in weapon system that fires 4,000 rounds a minute, because those tungsten bullets have to land somewhere, and that somewhere is likely a civilian's roof. Local police and border agents are left aiming AR-15 rifles into the dark sky, trying to hit a target the size of a dinner plate moving erratically at highway speeds. It is mathematically impossible. The economic disparity of this warfare is staggering. The United States spends millions of dollars to train a single helicopter pilot and tens of millions to build the aircraft. A cartel can build an FPV drone for under $500 using parts ordered online and shipped through standard global supply chains. Motors from Asia, batteries from Europe, circuit boards from the U.S. itself. They are assembled in underground workshops by technicians who are paid a fraction of a military contractor's salary. And while the U.S. government spends 5 years navigating bureaucratic red tape to approve a single counter-drone jamming rifle, the cartels are updating their drone flight software every single weekend. They iterate, adapt, and overcome at the speed of the internet, completely unburdened by congressional oversight, human rights constraints, or procurement laws. But the nightmare doesn't end at smuggling. Once the cartels establish this capability, the nature of their operation shifts from illicit trade to outright extortion. If they can easily breach the airspace over the border, they can target critical civilian infrastructure on the American side. Imagine a cartel demanding a massive payoff from a local Texas municipality. To prove they are serious, they fly a single explosive drone into a major electrical substation, knocking out power to 50,000 homes in the middle of a brutal summer heat wave. They threaten to target water treatment facilities, regional airports, or local police precincts unless their demands are met. The line between a criminal enterprise and an occupying insurgency completely dissolves. American citizens living in border towns would suddenly find themselves living in an active war zone, where the threat doesn't come from an invading army, but from the silent, buzzing terror hovering just out of sight. Furthermore, this technology does not develop in a vacuum. The intelligence community would quickly realize that the cartels are not engineering these systems entirely on their own. They are purchasing the expertise. Mercenaries, rogue engineers, and former military operators from across the globe are highly sought after by cartel bosses. More disturbingly, geopolitical adversaries of the United States see an opportunity. Without ever deploying a single soldier, hostile nations can bleed the United States internally by funneling advanced drone technology, jamming equipment, and encrypted communication networks directly to the cartels. It becomes a proxy war fought on American soil. The cartels act as the perfect, untraceable middleman, destabilizing the U.S. economy, terrorizing its citizens, and forcing the military to divert vast resources to domestic defense rather than global power projection. The psychological impact of an invisible, aerial invasion would fundamentally alter the American way of life. For generations, the United States has enjoyed the ultimate geographic privilege: 2 massive oceans to the east and west, and relatively peaceful borders to the north and south. The homeland was considered untouchable, but the drone swarm renders physical geography completely obsolete. A 30-foot steel wall cannot stop an enemy that flies over it. A heavily armed ground patrol cannot arrest an enemy that attacks from the clouds. The realization that the sky above your own neighborhood is no longer safe would trigger mass panic, a collapse in local real estate markets, and a total loss of faith in the government's ability to protect its people. We are standing on the precipice of a new era of warfare. The technology is already here. The financial motivation is already here. It is no longer a question of if the cartels will turn the southern border into a high-tech drone battlefield. It is only a question of exactly which night the buzzing will start, and how long it will take America to realize that the rules of survival have permanently changed.